activity and economic growth.
President Obama's inability to work with Republicans in Congress continues to be an issue as his second term in office starts heating up, bringing up questions of his leadership. Lee Webb recently spoke with Regent Law Professor Dr. Charles Dunn and his congressional leadership class. Dunn is the author of the book, The 7 Laws of Presidential Leadership. We wanted to know how he thought the president is doing.
Thank you.
A president's legacy is largely determined by how well he leads, particularly in tough times. Author and professor Charles Dunn rates 4 presidents at the top of his leadership list: Washington, Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt, and Ronald Reagan. At this stage of President Obama's tenure in the White House, how would you assess his leadership?
He gets a failing grade for presidential leadership, especially as related to the Congress. And the Congress, of course, the institution that passes the bills that become law. And that's where I have to grade him much lower than I would like to. In other areas, I would rate him much higher. For example, the law of rhetoric, he handles rhetoric pretty well. But if we look at the law of history, he's elected to represent the whole of the American people. He's the only person who does. I have to rate him very low on that because he has conducted a strategy of divide and conquer.
Dunn believes Obama's health care mandate is a good example of that strategy. A recent Rasmussen poll finds that 49% of voters view the health care law unfavorably, while 47% support it. That poll is echoed among Dr. Dunn's students.
He had all the votes he needed. He had 60 votes in the Senate. He had overwhelming majorities in the House. So he didn't need Republicans to get anything done. And as a result, you have this massive piece of legislation that has overhauled 1/6 of the American economy without any buy-in from half of America, essentially.
Dunn points to a speech the president made at a shipyard back in March when the sequester deadline loomed.
You don't want to have to choose between, let's see, do I close funding for the disabled kid or the poor kid? Do I close this Navy shipyard or some other one?
Dunn believes those tough decisions are what presidents are elected to make.
Again, look at those great presidents. The tough decisions that Washington made in forming this country and the presidency, the tough decisions Lincoln made, tough decisions that Franklin Roosevelt made, the tough decisions that Ronald Reagan made. Making tough decisions is one of the key criteria in determining the rank of presidential greatness.
And he believes President Obama's leadership strategy during his first term will come back to haunt him.
When President Obama won office, I spoke very highly of him as a person with great potential. But we have this big gap between promise and performance. It's a credibility gap. And that's what's showing now as his poll numbers are plummeting.
Lee Webb, CBN News.